Hey guys, Chris here. So did a video about the Apple Music on the iOS devices, kind of how it looked, user interface, things like that. So now we're going to take a look at the desktop version, which when it originally was released, wasn't really allowing you to download in the first couple hours, maybe throughout half the day. But it's up now, so we can kind of look at it, see kind of how it compares to the iOS version. So it all works out of iTunes. Again, iTunes basically upgrades just like it does on your phone, and you have an application now, iTunes. Um, and it's all thrown into one. So, like the first tab here, you look at my music, this is all the music I had in my library. Um, so, even aside from if I didn't have a subscription to Apple Music, I still have all my music that is on my computer. So that's that. Also, same with playlists, all your normal playlists here. Cool. So really, what it's going to be a little different is you'll see the for you option, and again, that is like I said in the iOS device. This is kind of Apple trying to match to your likings. It's gonna try and play artists that you picked that you liked, similar to that, or also as you listen to music, try and kind of work it into here to kind of introduce you to other things. Something that at first I wasn't really sure like I was a fan of, but now I actually really do like compared to Spotify is one, they do a thing for artists. Let me see if I can find one. So say, okay, my son loves listening to that Katy Perry song Roar. So like there's a playlist they made specifically of just Katy Perry songs called Intro to Katy Perry. They do that for a lot of other artists. You can go through and say, let's see here. Let's see what other ones are. Black Sabbath. Um, I mean, the playlists that they make are a lot more kind of more likely what you'd like to listen to compared to like, oh, hey, you liked Katy Perry. Here's a bunch of other random songs that may or may not compare to what you actually like. So the playlists that they actually kind of develop for you is actually kind of really nice, and that's something I actually like over Spotify. I notice on Spotify when I choose, start a radio station for an artist, um, it's it's all right, but it just doesn't seem like the tracks. Like I always seem like I could get to an end of a playlist, and I feel like here, the playlist is kind of continues to go. But like just the different options they have, best of 2000s emo. I think because I listened to like Hawthorne Heights or something. Um, Alternative hits 2005. I said on the iOS I didn't see decades. Um, you can scroll through this a pretty good little bit and see a bunch of different playlists that really kind of, if you're like me, sometimes I don't know what I want to listen to necessarily, but I have an idea, but I'm not like, okay, I want to listen to Story of the Year or I want to listen to Amber Lynn. But I may go through and be like, oh, hey, I don't know. Let's just go through and see what they have. And short of so, undercover Michael Jackson. It looks like covers of Michael Jackson songs, which would be cool. Rock hits of 1979. There's just different things in here that I'm like, oh, that'd be awesome. That's what I actually like to like. Jukebox hits. Well, I just kicked it out. I don't know where it's at. Jukebox hits 90s alternative volume one. I would love to listen to that because I'm like, oh, I wonder what songs in there, because sometimes you come across songs that you haven't heard in forever. So anyway, For You is actually something I really like, and at first I wasn't sure, but now, hell yeah, good job Apple on that. Let's move on to new music. Here's all the uh, new albums that are out. Nothing super kind of crazy out here. Um, I don't know if they really kind of pertain to things that you would be interested in. I think it's more just like, hey, here's new music. So that's just like iTunes. The new songs, new artists that have released something. Obviously, they probably have the bigger ones up top here. Radio, that's where you're gonna have a bunch of different playlists that you can choose from. Again, I haven't dove into this a ton, so they may have a decades like section now, which would be cool. But you can kind of go by. Let's just click on rock and blues and see what they have here. Rock, classic rock, hard rock, blues. So they don't go too crazy on like the radio playlists. I think because maybe that's what the when you look at for you, that's going to be a little more tailored to what you're going to like. Um, but having these different radio stations is kind of cool. So always open for being able to just hit random and play something that I enjoy. That I may not necessarily want to listen to an entire album of this band or that band. This kind of puts it in playlist that I may actually listen to new songs that I haven't heard of. So cool. Connect is going to be basically artists you've listened to or maybe you like, giving you kind of updates on um, what they may be doing, shows coming up, probably Twitter feeds or things like that. So um, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I'd really want to pay attention to it too much because I don't follow a ton of bands like religiously that I'd want to know exactly what they're doing. But it's a nice feature for bands that you're into. And then of course just the iTunes store, and that's just like the store like it's always been. You can go in and buy tracks, which I don't really know why you'd go in and buy a track now when you have this because you can just listen to it anyway. Maybe if you want to put it on a CD or something, that I understand. But outside of that, I would probably not buy too much music from here. I'm just going to use Apple Music. But so it's pretty cool. I know there's still some kind of ifs about it's iffy about certain things. I know playlists. I made a video about how to create playlists on the phone, which doesn't seem to work all the time. Um, so say I create a playlist, I'd add a song to it. It seems to have issues syncing over to say my iPhone if I want to play it on there, which is kind of a bummer. That's one thing I liked about Spotify is I could create a playlist in Spotify, and it's gonna basically show up on my iPhone as well. Apple seems to be a little over complicated with their process of doing it, and I guess using the cloud or whatever is why. But for me, I seem to be the issue that like if I wanted to sync my library up to the cloud, it's going to sync up all of this music, and I don't really want to sync up all this music that I have in here on my library, because I don't want to have to try and sift through it. Half this stuff I don't really even listen to anymore. Um, so with playlists, it just seems to be kind of that seems to be their low point, and a lot of trouble I've seen people having is that they create a playlist, add one song to it, and either it doesn't show up at all, or that shows up, and then you add another song, and that's not there. So obviously, it's still early, and I think they'll build on it, and I think ultimately it's going to become probably the most commonly used application because Apple seems to do a really good job with making things user friendly. For the most part, iTunes seems to be an exception, so maybe that's where they're going to say, okay, maybe we'll just keep it how it is, and everybody's going to be mad and keep on Spotify. But I don't know. I still got to kind of try it out some more. But I think this For You section I really like, and I think that's going to be something that people really appreciate because of how many different variations of playlists and music that they try and tailor to you and what you listen to. It's not going to be all emo, pop, whatever. It's going to be all sorts of different cool stuff that and playlists that are a little more like just for dad is kind of cool. Like just playlists that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but then you're like, oh, that could be actually cool to listen to. Um, is is nice. It's not necessarily um, the hits on certain playlists. Maybe it's like this AC/DC deep cuts. Maybe it's songs that aren't as well known by AC/DC, but um, songs that kind of introduce you to other songs by the band. So it's very cool. I think that's probably my favorite part of it, and something that I found myself just laying in bed listening to pretty regularly. So um, I like it, but again, Apple's still I think tweaking out uh, some of the things and issues with Apple Music on the desktop and the phone, but especially playlists and kind of syncing between your devices and your desktop and things like that. But that's my take. What do you think of Apple Music? Are you a bigger fan of Spotify? What is it about Apple Music you like or don't like? How would you change it? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you enjoy the video, please subscribe. Until next time. Thanks, guys.